Hello everyone, I have a 2002 Honda Odyssey, and I've recently experienced some issues with the rear vent windows, and what we're looking at right now is the driver's side. I also have the same issue on the passenger side, and the issue is that the window would intermittently open and close, so sometimes I may open it and I'm not able to get it shut, or vice versa. And I started thinking maybe it was the motor going bad and I'd replace it. However, I did some research and I found someone who thought it had something to do with the resistor into the motor, and then they posted a PDF with some detailed instructions on how to basically use just a little light bulb to leverage the resistance in that light bulb to overcome the issue that's experienced with this particular motor. The light bulb that I'm using here just happens to be a landscape light bulb. It's a 12 volt, 7 watt. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to step around to the driver's side door, and I'm going to activate the vent window switch, and you'll see the light bulb come on once the window's all the way open or all the way closed. And I'm going to go ahead and open it now. And once it's open, the light bulb should kick on. I'm letting off the switch, light bulb's off. I'm going to go ahead and close the window again. And once it meets resistance, the light bulb should be on right now. Okay, so that's the end result. Now I'm going to break it down on the passenger side step by step. Hopefully it'll help some people out. I just want to start by removing this piece. And you can see on the passenger side we have this vent. So the ultimate goal is to pull this piece off so that we can get to the motor, which controls the vent window. So I'm just going to use a small little screwdriver here, and I'm going to pop this in, and I'm going to take this little piece off right here. I'm going to grab my Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to pop this off. Alright. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to pry off this bigger piece here. And let me see if I can pull back and get a little better angle on it for us. I'm just going to start at the top, slowly pull it back. Keep in mind it's a lot easier to get this thing off than it is to put it back on. It just kind of looks like it. Keep in mind, I'm not a mechanic either. This is not what I do for a living. But I am a fairly handy person. Alright, I'm going to have to pause this for a minute because I'm going to have to get medieval to get this off. Okay, I did get the piece off, but unlike the driver's side, this side is just a little more challenging because of that vent and the tubing you can see running through it. Again, the driver's side doesn't have this, but what this means is the motor is behind that vent, so I'm going to have to take that vent off to get to the motor. And what I can see here is I right out of the gate see one plastic tip screw, which is right up in here, and this is not a push pin. This looks like it's a Phillips. So I'm going to use a Phillips and pop that off. And it appears there's another one right up here. And I'm sure that the Honda mechanics out there would probably be laughing right about now, but again, you know, I'm not a mechanic, just a handy person. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, I'm going to see what's behind it, what else we need to do to get to the motor. So we'll be right back. As I mentioned, there was a plastic Phillips screw here, then there was one at the top up in this area, and I pulled both of those off. And then at that point it does get a little tricky. I had to pull this back right here. I went to lift this up right here. You want to be a little careful. I'm not overly concerned. This is an 02 Odyssey, but there's a little plastic pin right back in here, and I went to pull up and snap that little piece off, which again, I'm not even sure you could pop that out unless you went out with it instead of up. That might have worked as well. But nonetheless, what I was really shooting for was to get this piece out of the way so I can get to the motor, which is back here. Now when you look at this whole vent system goes into a larger vent system, which is down above the passenger rear wheel well, and it slips into it. But what I noticed is that there is, this is like a go-between piece right here that actually slides up and down. I don't know if we can quite see that here, but yeah, this piece, and I actually had to finagle this thing. Now, take my word for it though. It does actually slide up and down. It's got a little bit of give to it, but this is kind of like the collar that goes into, and it goes into the base right there. So if you can pry this piece off, which this will actually come out real easy. I don't think you really have to mess with this much. But you can slip your hands under here, take that collar and push it up into this vent assembly, and then just kind of wiggle this thing back, and you got to apply a little bit of pressure, but it is all plastic, and there's really there's nothing to force up in this area, so this is still attached. But as you can see, the whole motor and the frame is exposed, and that's all we need at this point. What I'm going to do is, you can see right behind here, I'm going to go ahead and remove, you can see the 3 bolts right there that are holding the frame on. I'm going to go ahead and pull those, and actually there's 4. There's one you really can't see them. There it is. So I'm going to go ahead and take all 4 of those off, and then I'm going to disconnect the motor. The only other thing you got to pay attention to is right up, and it's right up in this area right here. It's really just a little plastic ball joint. That's all that is. So you can just manhandle that and sort of finagle that off its joint, and the whole thing will pop out. There's only one other connection. It's an electrical connection. You'll see it's at the bottom, which is right here. You'll need to slip that off, and once we do that, like I say, the whole motor will come out. We'll go from there. All right, I managed to remove the motor, and that really didn't take too long. I mean, maybe just 3-4 minutes to get the bolts off, and there's the little ball joint right there. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but that came out, just came out relatively easy. So the next thing we want to do is actually take this metal frame off of the motor, and you can see there are only 3 bolts that are holding that in. And by the way, all of these bolts are 10 millimeters, so just a 10 millimeter socket will get these off. All right, see, I pulled those 3 bolts off, and that only took just a minute or so. But this whole piece will come off, and what we want to do at this point, this is our actual motor, and what we want to do is we're going to pop this cover off the back right here. All right, I did manage to find, you'll see under here, if you just use a little bit of leverage, you'll be able to pry that up. And when you go to pry it up, just kind of work your way around it. This really isn't too difficult. I did this on the other side, and this will actually, I think it's just kind of glued on there actually, but so see, it did come off. Let me go fetch that. There it is right there. But yeah, I was essentially just trying to show you that this is how you get it off, but if you want to do it on the ground, you can do that as well. Okay, so this is the motor inside. These are the working components of it. See the cogs in there, and this is our actual motor itself. And what we want to do is we're going to pull this motor out, and this is what we're going to modify. And keeping in mind, I mean, you will, the issue is that as I mentioned before, the window, it's intermittent when it opens and closes. So again, let's just pull this motor out of here, and I'm just pulling on this side right here, and you'll see as you go to pull this out, you just kind of need to finagle it a little bit, and it comes right out. Okay, now what's important, I'm going to go ahead and take this piece right here, and I'm just going to put it off to the side, because right now we really don't need that. What we're going to really focus on will be this piece. Okay, and what you want to do is you're going to take this piece off the motor, and you're going to see two probes coming out. Now, because of polarity, you want to ensure that you mark one side so you put it on correctly when we go to put it back together. Okay, now as I go to pull on this, it came off one side really easy. The other side feels like it's kind of stuck. So this happened on the other one as well. I'm just going to use a small screwdriver here, and let's see if I can just kind of pry this off. There you go. Okay. Now I'm going to go grab a marker and mark this side to ensure that I know when we go to put this piece back on which side goes to which side. Alright, so what I've done is I pulled this off. You can see I just put a little orange dot there. It's kind of tough to see here, but I got a couple little scratches in this piece here, so I know how to line these up. Okay, when you're done with this piece, you're going to take your motor and you're going to put it off to the side for now because you won't need it for a little while. Our focus is going to be on this piece right here, okay? And what we're really going to focus on is this little metal wire right down in there. Let's see if I can bring that a little closer for you. See this little diagonal piece right in there in this probe? What we're going to want to do is pull this piece out, and if you flip it over, you'll see there are two prongs coming up on the inside. So what we want to do is just push one of them out. And the one we want to push out, again, is going to be this one that's diagonal that comes across. So there's, really to get that out, what you're going to want to do is you can just kind of take a flat-headed screwdriver, and I know by looking at it, it is this one here on this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push and kind of finagle that to get that out, and then this piece will pop out just like that. Okay, and this is the piece that creates the resistance, and the thought behind this is that it's this piece right here that doesn't function the way it should. The idea is that when power is put to the window and it opens, it knows that it's met resistance and it should stop the power so that the motor doesn't burn out. And essentially what's happening is that this thing, sometimes it heats up and it gives no power to the motor. Alright, what I've got here is I've just got two pieces of wire. These are actually stereo speaker wires. These are probably about 16 gauge, I'm guessing. This is actually monster cable, if you're familiar with that. I just had a spool of it. So the person in the PDF, who again I'm going to give a link to, talks about an 18 gauge wire, but again this is just what I have. And what I'm going to do real quick is strip off a little bit of this, so that I got some room to drop a little solder on it and get it to this piece. Alright. And I got my piece sitting right here. And the idea is going to be, I'm going to solder it like this, take the other piece and solder it to this side. So looks like a pretty good distance right there. What I'm going to do is trim off my other piece. Yes, this is kind of the way I strip wires. Not all the time, but I find it to be just as easy to do it that way. Alright. Now, I'm going to grab this. Grab my pliers. You can see I have my solder right here. By the way, yeah, I really don't solder a whole lot. No. I say I'm just happen to be kind of a handy person who likes to take things on, because I figure that if other people can do it, so can I. So what I'm doing here is, so you can see that right there. Now what I'm going to do is, it gets a little tricky. You really need a vise. I have a vise, I just don't have it right here with me. And I am going to try to multitask at this event. Alright, now we're ready for some solder. Heat up the gun. So you can solder with whatever you've got. All right. I think that's actually going to be pretty good. It's got a good contact right there. So what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and do the same on the other side with the red. Now it doesn't really matter, red, black, whatever color you have. Again, this is just what I had at my disposal. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same on this side, and then show you the result. All right, now you can see I've got it on both sides. I got my red soldered in and my black, and I think we're good here. Okay, what we're going to do now is, now that we have this soldered on, if you see the way it goes back in, it might be a little tough to see, but the hole that it went back into, which is right down in there, this piece is going to have to sit like that, okay? And you're probably looking at this and you're thinking, what do we do with these wires? Well, right up here in this top right corner up here, what we're going to want to do is drill a hole. Now, on the other person that posted information on this said about 1/8 of an inch. Again, it kind of depends on the gauge of the wire. What I did on the other side is I actually used this little X-Acto blade, and I came in from the back side up here, and I just kind of pick a random point in that open area, and I just started whittling a little hole, just like this. Okay, I'm going to kind of twist this a little bit, and this took me, I don't know, about 10 minutes on the other side. Could you pull a drill out? Probably. Although I have a dead battery on my drill right now, so it's not going to work out for me. But I did find out that doing it this way surprisingly works well. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of keep whittling for the next 4 or 5 minutes. You can see I'm kind of making some headway. I'm starting to dig into it now. And I'm actually going to come out the other side, and then I'll use a screwdriver and just kind of keep widening it a little bit, and grab a nail and widen it some more, and I will show you the end result when I'm done. Alright, what you'll see is you can see the hole now, right? It's nice and it's good size, and that's going to be used to feed the wire through it. Okay, you'll notice there's a little tiny lip of a plastic piece inside. It's a little tough, I think, because of the lighting in here, but you'll see it if you get this piece off. What I'm going to use is just some wire cutters. I'm going to clip away just a little part of that. Maybe I'm going to come over just 1/8 of an inch, and I'm doing this so that the wires can more easily fit through and make their way down through that hole. Now for this, you can use these wire cutters, you can use well, needle nose pliers, whatever you've got that's going to kind of do the trick here. So I don't know if you can kind of see that, but I was able to kind of chip that away. And I might chip away just a little bit more. There. Alright. Alright, so now I've got that carved away. What you want to do is you're going to take this piece right here, you're going to fit it down through your slot, and you're going to take your wires and you're going to go ahead and bend them down. And this is where you want to ensure you have a good, crisp solder. There we go. So now they come right through. Ooh, I'm going to pull this other side through here. There we go. Now you can see how that's working. I got a few frayed ends. I'm probably going to go ahead and chop those off. But I'm going to go ahead and get this seated down in here. Okay, got the wires through. Hopefully if you're kind of doing the same thing, you'll have that. It takes a little bit of finagling to kind of get that down in there, so you just take your time with it and be careful. So once you get it down in there though, you'll be in good shape. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and strip off the tips. Okay. Now, next thing you want to do is grab a light bulb. Now this is just some generic landscape lighting light bulbs. You'll see it's 12 volt, and these are 7-watt bulbs. Okay. This just happens to be what I had around the house. I think the other person used different type of bulb, but I thought this might work, and it did. You'll see on the tail end you have these little metal probes here, and I'm just going to use this blade. I'm going to pop up. Just going to bend that out a little bit. Do the same on the other side. Just exposes them. That's all it does, right? So you can kind of see that maybe. All right, and what I'm going to do, and it doesn't really matter, I'm just going to take black to one side, red to the other. I'm going to place it like this and drop a little bit of solder on the tips, but first thing we're going to do is get everything placed, and then we're going to test it out before we start soldering. So I'm going to go ahead and loop that in there now, and let's see here. And this doesn't have to be exact. What you're really trying to do is just make connection here. And the ultimate goal is to leverage the same type of transistor that is in this light bulb. Okay? Nothing real special there. Do the same to the other side if I can. I like to get more threads in there than not, so I'm going to try to see if I can kind of flatten that out, and I think I got a majority of them in there. Okay. Now again, what I'm going to do is you want to be careful not to pull on that wire a whole lot, but I'm going to go ahead and get over to the van. We're going to test this out. We're going to see if this is going to work out. All right. Let's go see what happens. Right. So here we are. You'll see the piece, you'll see the light bulb here and the wires, and we got the motor. And remember what we talked about before, where I talked about keeping the polarity, and that's what I've marked off this side. I marked this side right here, that way I know what sides they go back onto, and I'm going to go ahead and slide this on. Just like that, okay? So now that we're on, what I'm going to do is go ahead and, in order to test this, I mean, we could go ahead and hook this up, and what you'll see is you'll see this little motor spin right here. But what we really need is the resistance. So in order to get the resistance, we're going to have to put this back in its casing, and it'll only take a second. So what I'm going to do is, we've got our case right here, put aside, we got our motor, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and slide this back in, and you just got to kind of finagle it, just as we did to get it out, and this is going to slide in like that. Okay, so now it's in there. Looks kind of funny with our light bulb sticking out, but and ultimately, if this works, we're going to leave it like this, and we're just going to tape it down like that. We're going to put a little bit of solder on the tips, but before we go crazy and start soldering and just finishing everything up with tape, we definitely want to test this out, so that's what we're going to do right now. And I think what I'm going to do as well, you can actually test it just like this. You'll get to see the cogs moving, and this little piece back here is our resistance. So what we should be able to do is you can get someone to help you and just operate the vent switch, the vent window switch, and hold this down. Now, the thought is when you hold this down and you have resistance, light bulb should go on. You take your hand off and it should go off, you know, providing that this is moving. All right, stop. Go ahead and move it the other way. Okay, stop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand back here, and I'm going to actually stop this from going, and what we should see is that the resistance should go to the light bulb, and that'll actually act as our resistor. So let me hold on to this best I can. All right, go ahead and try to move it up or down. There it is. Stop. And you see how that went off? Go ahead and move it the other way, and I'm going to hold it. There it is. Stop. So that tells us it's working, and what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and disconnect the power. We're going to go back over, put just a little bit of solder on the tips up here, and I'm going to tape it all down. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and solder up again. All I'm going to do here is just put a little bit of solder on this wire We don't have to coat it. It's really just to ensure that we don't get a short down the road for any reason. So I'm just going to drop a little bit on here. I'm going to go ahead and tape this off now, and the ultimate goal will be we're going to turn around and we're going to put this, let's see here, we're going to put this back and rest the light bulb between the two wires. And the reason to do this is really just to create, just give that bulb a little bit of protection in there. So for that, I'm going to grab my handy dandy electrical tape, and we're going to tape this up. Alright, you can see that we're done taping up now, and the link that I'm going to post with the PDF that someone else had put together, he talks about putting a heat shrink wrap on it, which is a good idea as well. For me, I just don't have that, so I just opted for some electrical tape. And I don't mind leaving my bulb exposed just because, you know, I'd kind of like to know if I need to get back in there and something's not working. It'd be real quick to see if something happened to the wire or the bulb burnt out. If the bulb burnt out, you got to put a new bulb in it. But you got to think about how many times you're opening that and how many times that bulb's going to be on. This bulb should easily outlast the life of the van, would be my guess. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and put everything back together. Alright, so here we are. I've got the piece right here, the motor, and you want to be sure that this little key right here on the bottom, where the gear is, that it's on the back side. And if it's not, you just plug it in and hit the switch to give it power, because you'll know, because this thing won't fit on top. Okay, so this thing will just fit right up on here just like that, and you know, there's really no screws to hold that in place, because what does hold this in place is going to be this. So this is your metal bracket. It's going to sit right on top, and if you remember this is how we actually, it goes just like this. Alright, so yeah, so we get it just like this, and what we're going to do right now is we're going to put the 3 bolts in on this side over here, and it's going to reattach this. Alright, we've got the 3 bolts put back on it right now, and now we're going to go ahead and put this assembly back in place. Alright, you can see that we've bolted it back in at this point, and you'll see the light bulbs right down there at the bottom.